Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. And today we're actually going to get into a topic that I actually was watching a video on on social media that was getting into the discussion of larger people, more specifically women. They dabbled in the realm of with men, and I'll just keep it brief to say with men, guys who are heavier set in the dating world. This is going in the talking about in the direction of the dating world. Just to be clear, when it comes to men in the dating world who are heavy set, they're just pushed away, they're rejected. Most of the time, they're not really seen as something that's a viable option. So I'm not even going to get too heavy into that because that's usually clear cut. Most guys kind of understand that if you're heavier, then whatever you're able to get is what you're able to get, and what you can't get, you have to do self improvement. So this discussion is really on this the discussion or the video that I was watching was talking about essentially the reality of this whole body positivity thing, and how it's kind of run rampant around, at least in the US, where you got half of people saying, pro body positivity. We could look however we want. It doesn't matter how big we are. It doesn't matter whatever the case is, and we should be accepted. And then another set of people saying, well, it's unhealthy. People have their preferences. So if they don't like that, they have the right to not like that, which is 100% true. No one has to like anything that they don't want to like. And just kind of really diving into that, I figured let me take a shot at kind of dissecting that whole debate that seems to always come up and down in the social media space of the dating realm, or just that whole social space in general, whether it's not the dating realm but it's just simply just being positive. But here we're really focusing it into the aspect of the dating realm. So first off, let's dive first into um the way larger women are seen, um from the perspective of men. And I'm putting this video out not only just to kind of expand on the topic, but also, since this channel is all about positive, positivity and encouragement, but though it may not come out in the form of necessarily in the positive in this term, when people say body positivity, positive is simply putting someone on the better track of bettering their life, and sometimes that requires work. So when I say this channel is about positivity in regards to this subject, just know that it may not mean that it's going to be what you want to hear, but it's always going to be something that's positive to put you in a better place. So the reality of how large women are seen, at least here in the US, a lot of them sometime, you know, may not realize most men see them in a way where, though some guys can be attracted to them, and this all depends on the range of how big somebody is as well. But if somebody is, say, I'm going to use a base height, and then we're going to expand on the weight from there. That way, if we keep the height consistent, you can then envision their size based on the weight or whatnot. So we'll say that a person who is, we'll say 5'5". Okay, that's not too short. It's not too tall either. Something kind of in between. If a person is that height, we'll say the norm, and I'm not going off studies, but just kind of based on some people who like thicker, some people who like thinner. We'll say the norm range of weight for, um, you know, 55. I mean, sorry, 5'5". We'll say is somewhere in the weight range of 130 to 145 pounds. We'll say that that's the range that you could kind of be in to look, healthy, semi-slim, athletic, or something in that range. You're not too skinny. You're far from being heavy. You're just in that kind of nice little, sweet spot, we'll say. If that is our bar that we're setting right now, and I don't think that's unrealistic, I don't think that's over the top. Some people might prefer smaller, some people might prefer larger, but we'll say that that's our base range right now. Somebody who would then be considered kind of heavy would be someone who's probably approaching into that 180 range at 5'5". You're heavy. you might be curvy, and if it's in the right area, some people might like you, but you still are in that heavier range. Now, with that being said, then you go into a category of, we'll say, 100 and um so I want to double back. I just want to say that from that 180 range, we'll give the leeway to go up to 200 pounds at that 5'5" range. Let's be clear, even though I'm skipping a certain weight in between, this is hardcore defined as you are heavier. You are definitely a bigger person. You might wear it well on the lower end of 180 versus 200, but you're still nonetheless are in that range where maybe you don't wear it well. And for a lot of guys too, that plays a big role is how you wear it. We're just going right now off the weight amount. Um, Once you go into, we'll say, I'm making another large jump now, 250 and up at 5'5", you are in a territory where you are extremely heavy for your height. And so, even though these are just random loose numbers, but they give definitely hard defining differences. So I didn't want to do a small gradual range of like 145, 130, 145, and the next one going 145 to whatever, because at that point, the person on the lower end of that is clearly could be the same as the previous category. So with that being said, we got these three categories here: 130 to 145, 180 to 200, and 250 plus. At 180 to 200, some people might wear it kind of well, and and some people don't. And at 250 plus, you're going to be considered very heavy. Now, the reality of it in the world is, though you might have guys who might view that as, you know, I'm okay with someone who's 180, 200 pounds, and they say, I think that person's relatively attractive. We have to understand something, especially with the dynamic of men and women in the world right now, especially in the US. Well, we're going to just say the US. I'm not going to say in the world right now, the US. That I mentioned in a previous video about how the dynamics of men when they are getting to when they're in that phase of searching for somebody, and how often men, because they can't get what they want, there is this level of where on equal level, and I'm going to put this into numbers form. If there's a guy who's like a 5 on a scale of 1 to 10, and there's a woman who's a 5, often, at least in big cities, and this is maybe a little bit different in smaller cities, but in big cities, the guy who's a 5 will almost feel like a level below the female, just because of, and I don't know what came first, the chicken or egg, but her supply and demand allows her to say, the guy who's a 5, I want the guy who's a 6. And so what happens is that guy then in turn has to go below his level to someone who's like a 4, for the purpose of saying, guys need to, everyone needs to have somebody in their life just for the purpose of having that company, companionship in the meantime, while maybe they're waiting for for the thing that is equal to their level, what suits them. The difference is women don't have to settle for that because men are doing the settling. So what will happen is, while that guy who's a 5 will go for the girl who's a 4 in the meantime until he gets what he wants. And I'm going with 5s, just say that that's not considered low, that's considered average. If the guy now goes to a 4 while he's waiting, that girl who's a 4 now thinks, I found the guy of my dreams. And this corresponds to every single level. If there's a guy who's a 6, he wants a girl who's a 6. He will then settle for the 5 in the meantime because it's easier access for him. He doesn't have to do as big of a song and dance. And then when he does that, the girl who is a 5, if he is a 6, now thinks she found the guy of her dreams. This creates this kind of false sense of women thinking that they're at the level that the guy is that they're with, which is why they end up running into problems all the time down the line, is because that bar becomes the standard for them to be with, not realizing that it's a false bar. If you are a female that is a 4 and you're with a guy who's a 5, that's a false bar. And you may not know that in terms of a number range, but you kind of know that, okay, looks wise, maybe what this guy has, status wise, job wise, his whole thing, because men's level, obviously I'm talking about a looks level, but also there's a lot of weight for men that go into, how much they make, their personality and whatnot. Because with men, it's not just about looks, though that plays a large role as well. Where women, it's more about the looks. So I'm not saying that that changes the man's look value, but obviously, if he's acceptable in a look value, then his looks value, then he having other things, will change that. I'm very much getting off topic right now, so I'm going to try to bring it back around as fast as I can. So my point to that is that guys, they will settle. So what happens is that larger women don't realize that on top of the fact that men have to settle as is, even if they are talking to a girl who is in that 130 to 145 range, or whatever the case is in terms of weight for the height that I gave, someone who's normal, you will say just, normal size, or regular size. Skinnier than that could be considered too skinny. Bigger than that could be obviously considered too big. So we're just going to call that normal for the sake of this video. A guy who would go after even someone who's normal size, he still has to go below his equal rating, just because supply and demand in today's times. So for that reason, he'll even have to go even further below if he's going to consider someone who's heavier. But a lot of women don't understand that. So when they have a guy who goes after them, they start to wonder things like, okay, like that must be my level because that guy's going after me and a bunch of guys going after me, not realizing that a lot of times they're going after them just for sex and to hook up. What's funny is one of the videos I was watching showed examples of women who would come on there on social media and talk about their issues and would say things like, I had a guy who was dating me and he wouldn't show me off to his friends, or he wouldn't take me over to, his families, or whatever the case is. Understand that, you know, um, somebody who, matter of fact, I'm gonna throw another example in there too before I continue that. I once read a blog on something like that, just about, people in general, because I like diving into these kind of social avenues. And it was speaking about, it was a blog about a heavier set woman who was talking about one of those kind of official blogs, not like one where people are commenting back and forth, but like an article. And it was talking about how, as heavier women, they find themselves sometimes doing things that, they normally say, I don't want to do, or start getting seen in this light of, like, well, I won't say things that they don't want to do, but they end up finding they're doing things more often, like maybe certain things in the bedroom that they would have said, like, why is it people target me just for this particular things at the bedroom? Or why is it that, like, there's this particular aspect of the relationship that I, find myself dealing with, where maybe like they'll say, hey, I'll call you at 2 in the morning, as opposed to having a normal dynamic of a relationship. They might take them out every now and then, but it's not very often. And most of the time, it's like, let's go home. Why is it like always come to my home rather than, let's go out, or things of that sort? Anyone who's listening to this will understand and get what I'm trying to say. So with that being said, um, there is that dynamic that goes along with it. And a lot of times it's not understood that that in itself is signs that, something is that person is not comfortable. They're not bringing to light the situation of that they really, see that person as a viable option. But a lot of times, people won't understand this. Like Javier said, women won't understand this, so they instead they hide behind the idea that they actually were almost in reach of a relationship, but they weren't. They actually were nowhere near in range of a relationship. So this is in a direct contradiction to the fact that in society tries to tell heavier set women, like, be positive, um, you know, uh, be positive, love yourself, this and that, versus the actual real world results that they're actually experiencing. And so what happens is that there's a moment of looking inwards, or inner, um, what's the word I'm looking for? Like examining yourself, and really taking a deep dive into what you're experiencing, and say to yourself, well, this is what the world's telling me to be like. And I get on the bandwagon of the world telling me to be this way, but the real world results are not matching that. And what happens is that there's a certain point in time where you have to say to yourself that you're going to have to either change the way that you're thinking, if you want things to change, or you're going to have to physically change certain things that you're doing. But I say this to say that there was a direct conflict with the idea of what society puts out there in terms of being positive about being overweight versus the results that you're getting in the real world, and you holding on to this state of mind of that it's okay to stay this way, that at some point something's going to change, and you having human contact makes you think that you are actually close to attaining something, some level of normal relationship kind of feel, or I want to say normacy, but that doesn't, I don't think that's a word. But you want to have to feel like, you're part of the norm, but that like every single time is the same results, which means that you actually aren't any closer to being in a normal social or relationship dynamic. Meaning that just because you have five maybe hookup scenarios in the last long lasting hookup scenarios in the last like maybe 3 years, that doesn't mean you are any closer to a relationship or what you were looking for just because you experienced those back to back. So that's the real world results. So part of the reality of it is absorbing that reality and then saying, well, what can be done? And this is the part where we give some positive advice in terms of what can be done. Now, obviously, you're going to hear things all the time like exercise, do better, be better. I want to give an example. One of the videos that I was actually watching, and I thought this was very interesting. There was a guy who was dating a woman, and she was a little bit heavier, and I think they had kids together, from what it looked like. And he had made a bet. Someone may recall this kind of video, if it went viral or not, I don't know. But where the guy made a bet and said, "Hey, I'll marry you if you lose weight." And so she took the bet. She put in the work. She got more fit, and then they got married. And some women, I heard, were upset about that, and in the comments had posted things like, oh, if I did that work, then I would just leave the guy, or X, Y, and Z. Why should you have to do that? Which obviously makes no sense, because you're not getting to the root of the issue. Is that you want to be accepted for just how you are, but everyone has standards. That's a fact, and there's nothing wrong with that. Just like there are women who have standards, who might say, I want a guy who's 6 feet. I want a guy who makes a certain amount of money. There's nothing wrong with a guy saying, I don't want someone who's this level of weight. That doesn't mean he's shaming them. He can literally say, I have family members that are like that, and I love them to death. In terms of what I want to be with, it's not the same thing. And one thing to anybody out there, whether you're a woman or a man, don't let anyone shame you for your preference. Now, no one really does that to women really much as it is, but for men, they get shamed sometimes for having a preference. Don't let no one shame you for your preference. That's your preference. That's the rest of your life you're going to spend with someone. Don't let someone else make that decision for you. But I digress. So, um, in that kind of situation, people are commenting in that way, but the person did it. And so, going back to what I was saying, as far as things changes that a person could do, you can either go the route of exercising and working out, which is really the best route. But also, if you do that, don't lose sight of who you were and what you were getting. Don't then automatically go, okay, well, now that means that I can move up in a level in terms of the people who I'm dating. And I'm going to go from, say, dating guys who are like a 5 average to now I'm dating guys who are 7, because you have to always keep understanding that whole thing about guys settling, going down one level is always the case. So if you think that that means you're now going to date way above, the truth is you're doing this, at least on the dating market, to hold the guy you were able to get before, not to just have sex with guys who are above that level. So to paint this picture with an example that gives it clarity, if you are a woman and on a social scale, men rate you a 4, no one rates themselves like a low level sometimes, but we're going to go based off what the world is rating you. If they rate you a 4, and you're overweight, and we'll say that you're like, maybe you are 200 pounds, you're 5'5", you're 200 pounds, you're 4, then you exercise. Well, you're 4, you couldn't, you had guys who were like maybe a 5 settling to get with you, and they they have their fun with you, they do this and that, but they come meet up with you at your home or their home. They don't really take you out on dates, they aren't really doing those kind of things, showing you off to their friends, this and that. You're going on these little dates with them, you're trying to hold on to them, but it doesn't work out. It's not a valid relationship. If you work out and you exercise and say you drop 40 pounds and now you're like a one, I don't know, 160, 150, or whatever the case is, don't now think I want to get banged now that I moved up to maybe a five and I'm average. Don't say, well, now I want to get banged with a guy who's a six when you were just dating the guy who's a five. You now are at the level of the guy with the five. And just because you get attention from the guy who's a six, just understand he's just banging you because he wants the guy. He wants the other girl who is a six, but he can't get her. So don't try to go out of your lane. And I don't mean to say harsh about it, but it's the reality of it. And what will happen if you do that? You're now competing with genuine women who probably weigh a little bit less, who might be a little more attractive. And to that man who's a six, you're now competing with the ones who are actually a six while you're thinking you're a six. And you're always going to be the side piece or whatever the case is. So when you do that work, don't just jump out of your category thinking that means now I get to go to a new category. It's better to retain the guy who's a five than just get banged by the guy who's a six. I hope that came across correctly. You understood what I was trying to say there. Now, with that being said, that's one of the major options is working out. And I always say to people, start slow. When you diet, do it in a way where you have some stuff that's healthy and some stuff that's tasty. You don't have to go 100% in one moment. A lot of people do that and then they ruin everything because they're trying to go too hard, too fast. Sometimes treat yourself. Just kind of make it in moderation where you're not going cold turkey because some people go, I just want to lose weight, go cold turkey. They try to do that. And then guess what happens? They fail every time. So don't do that. The other option is this, and no one's going to really speak on this as much, but this is something I think that women need to hear and understand. If you are a heavyset woman and you are 200 pounds, or maybe you're above 200 pounds, and you're 5'5", we'll say, and you can adjust towards your height for the weight and whatever. But if you're that type of level of heavy and you don't really want to do much changing for yourself, you need to be willing to do other things in other areas to make up for it. Adjust your personality. And even then doesn't mean it's going to be guaranteed, but that's at least something you could do that doesn't cost you anything. It doesn't even cost effort in terms of, you physically working out. A lot of times you'll have heavier women who will say, I want what the skinnier woman wants, which makes no sense because we all know, and it's just the reality of it. You could be skinny, you would. If someone came to you right now, if God came to you and said, I'm going to make you skinny, do you want to be skinny or not? You're not going to go, I don't want to be skinny. If someone came to Lizzo, for an example, because everyone uses her as the gold standard for body positivity and being heavy. If someone came to her right now and said, okay, I hear you talking all that body positivity, but like God came down and said, I'm going to magically make you skinny now. I'm going to magically make you 130 pounds. Do you want to be that? You all know she's going to abandon all her followers and say, I want to be skinny. So keeping that in mind and us being real about that, I need you to realize that the choice of a man is always going to be towards the skinnier person on average. And even if there's one particular guy who likes his women really heavy like that, you have to understand that's a very niche, group. And if you find that, more power to you. But don't think that you have the power, the market value to demand things the way a skinnier woman would be able to demand things. So stop trying to compete with them and saying, I need a guy who's going to treat me like a lady and he's going to spend money on me and he's going to, open all the doors for me and do all it. Stop demanding all that because that man is easily in his back of his mind demanding that you be skinny. You're not doing it for him, which is in a way, someone might even say that's disrespectful to him that you are not doing that for him. So we all have our things that we want to do that feel comfortable for us. Don't demand those things. And this is me coming from a positive place to tell you how you can achieve what you want in terms of relationship without putting in that real work that you don't want to put in. Take that person as they come. If they're willing to spend time with you, expand on that. Be nice to them. Be nice to them, and they will probably, in general, be nice to you. Now, they don't have to be the most handsome guy, 6 feet, or whatever the case is, because you are not that. So don't think that you have to have someone on the same level of your friends. If your friend is 130 pounds and you're 200 pounds, you got to stop being selfish like that because that's being selfish. And if you just tweak your mindset in terms of saying, you know what, I'm going to be really nice to this person. I'm going to, instead of trying to treat them like they're not at my level, knowing that I'm not at their level, because I'm not willing to lose weight, and they probably are a skinny guy. Because let's be honest, most heavyset women are not trying to get with very heavyset men. If it's a 200 plus pound woman, she's not trying to get with a 200 plus pound guy. So with that being the case, if you're with a guy and he's relatively fit, he's relatively thin, make him feel like, okay, he is of the value that you know, supply and demand. You're happy to have him. Cook for him, clean for him. When it comes to the bedroom, do what it is that he likes. You know, make him feel really good. And in turn, you will be able to actually lock down somebody, because the truth is, a lot of men who actually sometimes do consider heavier women, they do it with the mindset of, you know what, I've been with skinnier women. As much as they might be more attracted to them, some of them say, but you know what? I don't mind going to a heavier sized woman if it's coming with all the bells and whistles. The problem is that when they come to the heavier woman and she's going with this kind of Lizzo mentality, like, I need you to be this, I need you to be that, and I have a super long checklist, the guy says, well, if you have the same checklist as the skinny woman and you're going to like try to come at me the same way the skinny woman is, and make it challenging. Maybe I got to jump through hoops and this and that. Like, I'm just going to go with the skinny woman. You have to understand that. You just need to understand that concept because it's very simple. Get out of your head, get out of your emotions, get out of your feelings. If you went to a car dealer and you saw a car that was, you know, a junk and mess and rusted and looks bad, and you see some gleaming, shining, nice brand new car, and they're both the same price, you are not going to take the car that costs that is a mess and cost the same price. You're just not going to do that. You know what I mean? We all know that's the case. So you have to understand that that's the reality of it. Understand your market value and understand how it works. So if you go and present yourself in a way where, because those, like I said before, those guys will sometimes say, I don't mind taking on a heavier set woman. Maybe she's a little curvy. Maybe she has a nice smile to her. She's got a nice face. I will take that on because in my mind, I'm saying she's not going to give me attitude. She's going to be really nice. She's going to cook. She's going to be what I need in the bedroom. She's going to, you know, like when I come home, it's going to, you know, big me up, make me feel really good. That guy then says, cool, I don't mind exchanging a level of looks for that. You have to be that then. That's one of the biggest issues that a lot of heavier set women run into because they are not willing to bend because they want to be equally treated as maybe their skinnier friends. You got to get out of your emotions. It doesn't work like that. So I know the video dragged on a little bit longer. I know I rambled a little bit, but put your comments down below. If you agree, disagree, what are your thoughts on the whole thing? And yeah, let's try to come to a place where we can, you know, share positive feed instead of things being so taken in this viral context of, you know, everyone getting their emotions hurt rather than facing the reality of things. Because it's all about, like I said, positivity and us telling each other straight, without the lies, without the whole, you know, oh, you're great, you're great. Meanwhile, like I said before, your results are not showing that you're great. Your results are not getting what you want. Time is going past. You're getting older. You go from your 20s, 30s, and your 40s, and now you're like, okay, I feel like I'm going to be living alone. Your results is what speaks for itself. Forget about what people tell you. So let's try to be a little bit realistic in this world and better ourselves. Once again, like always, this channel is about positivity. So you guys take care of yourselves, be safe, and comments down below. And I'll catch you guys in the next video.